Hi, everybody. I always love Wednesdays. Get to hang out with all you fine folks. So we're just going to talk a little bit about some etiquette. Just raise your hand, just so we can tell we're not all trying to talk over each other. That's there for you to read. The rainforest, here we compare the rainforest to a factory farm and how they differ. Farms operate in an environment where we try to minimize that risk and maximize yield as much as possible. Where here in the rainforest, innovation is all about taking risks and exploring new concepts and ideas, where wild thoughts, opinions, and ideas are planted as seeds, nurtured, and allowed and encouraged to grow. The vision is about creating a community here in Alberta, right here in Alberta, where big ideas can grow and prosper. And the mission is to connect the ecosystem and strengthen the tech framework through shared values, community, and trust. And the social contract is one of my favorite things. It's what drew me to the Rainforest Network. It is the epitome of a model of psychological safety and creates a structure of support. It's a code of conduct that allows each person to share and shine. And if you've not already signed it, I'm sure Amber will be putting the link in the chat, and I encourage you to go do so. It's a great community. Most heavily weighed here is culture, and that culture of trust, support, and safety to fail forward, to challenge the status quo and grow those next big ideas. Leaders are identified and leaders are grown in the rainforest environment. We share resources and activities to engage, share policies, and model industry best practices in organizational strength, leadership, and trust. And on that vein of trust, I am going to take a moment here for shameless self-promotion. Next Thursday, May 24th, there is a psychological safety symposium. I do have a special code set up, $10 off tickets for rainforesters, and I will be sharing that in the chat as well. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Ruth Ann, and for the plug. That's great. All right, so it looks like we do have a few new people in the room. So hopefully that little intro gave you some context into what we are all about, the movement that is Rainforest Alberta. If you are new, please feel free to throw your name and say hello in the chat and your involvement, or if you're new completely to the ecosystem. We've been reflecting on the summit, the Calgary summit held a couple weeks ago, because we are creating a report to share back to the community. And I was thinking about in-person events and how you could easily hide in the back of a room at an in-person event, but on Zoom, we have pros and cons. And one of the pros that became very apparent to me was that you can just shout anything out to the entire room and they will all read it in the chat. That would be really weird if you did that in person. So a pro to Zooming: if you have an ask or a need or a want, or you need some mentorship in a certain area of your startup or career in tech, if you would like to share that vulnerably in the chat, there are many folk here who would, I'm sure, like to connect you with others or help you out. So please feel free to just toss those out in the chat and share with each other, and use the chat to DM and just share widely. There we go. See, someone's looking for work. We always have a few looking for work, and a lot of people know of organizations looking to hire. And there's a new platform called Hello Tech that is hosting hundreds, if not more, jobs in the tech scene in Calgary and Alberta right now. Okay, so we will get started with our panel. So if you are new, we usually have a panel discussion, and then near the last half hour of it, we will head into breakout rooms and get to know each other better and be able to help each other out through those conversations as well. So today we're going to be talking about some resources that are available in the ecosystem for both startups and for individuals. There's benefits to all here. We have Sarah from Mitacs. Hi, Sarah, you're here now, right? Hi, great. And we have Taylor from Venture for Canada, who I'm looking forward to learning about. So welcome. I'll tell you a bit about these folks, and then we'll pass it over to them to share what's happening at their organizations. So Taylor's been working with Venture for Canada since January of this year, to develop and implement a new work integrated learning program for Alberta. It's called the VFC's externship program. And I was going to look that up, but then I remembered that's what we're learning about today. So I'll just let you tell us, Taylor. She's a Calgary native, and it has been an exciting challenge to have the opportunity to develop a program that responds directly to the needs and priorities of our province. Taylor has over 5 years of experience developing and facilitating youth programs, and has a passion for mentorship. So you're in the right place, Taylor. She believes that an investment of time and resources in the next generation is the key to growth of Alberta's innovation sector, and we could not agree with you more. That conversation is had widely throughout the innovation ecosystem about how we can get more youth involved. So looking forward to this. And then I'll quickly introduce Sarah Tops, who is a public health professional, business strategist, and published author with many years of experience across different industries. Sarah holds a Master's of Public Health from SFU and an MBA from SFU as well. She also has an honors bachelor's degree in international development and economics from McGill. Sarah holds a dual role in the innovation ecosystem, which is quite cool. She works both for Mitacs and for Innovate Calgary, with a specialization in life sciences and social impact. Her volunteer roles include co-chair of the Emerging Health Leaders of Calgary and vice chair and board of directors for Maternity Today, an international nonprofit. Sarah is most at home working in the crossroads of innovation and impact. I'm with you on that, Sarah, while passionately supporting others in this space. Her top 3 rainforest values, which I just love this add-on to her bio, are diversity, listening, and honesty. She's a very good listener and very capable at paraphrasing what was very complex things, that paraphrasing back to an audience. So awesome to have you both with us. I think we'll start with Taylor, and then we'll head over to Sarah. And then if you could just throw your questions in the chat as we go, and they'll try to catch those questions, or we'll help feed them over to you. So Taylor, off to you.
Great, thank you so much. I have some slides to share, so I'm going to share my screen. Excellent. Okay. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting to get the chance to share this new program with you. And as it was said in the intro here, I'm a Calgary native, and so the chance to speak to my community is really exciting. So excited to share this new opportunity with all of you, and as it is a new opportunity to glean some feedback from a bunch of people who seem to be of the same mindset. So here we go. So if you're not familiar with Venture for Canada, we're a national charity that fosters entrepreneurial skills and mindsets in young Canadians. To be entrepreneurial is to act upon opportunities to create value for others. We at VFC recruit, train, and support young people to work for innovative Canadian small businesses and startups. And through our programs, participants develop the network knowledge and entrepreneurial skills to have more impactful careers. So how do we do that? Well, we connect recent grads and students to jobs at startups. We develop talent pipelines for startups and small businesses by pre-vetting and training young talent. And we provide work readiness and entrepreneurial training to all the participants of all of our programs. At the core of Venture for Canada really is that we're an entrepreneur apprentice programs. We believe that the best way to learn entrepreneurship is not necessarily in the classroom, but through hands-on learning opportunities. Experiential learning has proven to be one of the most effective methods of training because people are primed to learn by doing, which is why organizations are swapping traditional methods of training with experiential learning in their organizations. Studies show that 75% of job knowledge is acquired through experience, and surveys show that 70% of students express a more positive attitude towards experiential learning or work-integrated learning than any other traditional training model. As it was said in my intro, the key to growth and success of the innovation sector in Alberta is to focus on work-integrated learning. We believe that key skills students need the opportunity to foster and develop their entrepreneurial mindsets include creativity, communication, ambition, and resourcefulness. Increasingly, attention is being placed on designing offerings that help develop innovation skills, and particularly creating suitable contexts in which those innovation skills can flourish. Work-integrated learning is personal and effective in nature, influencing both feelings and emotions, as well as enhancing knowledge and skills. It goes beyond classroom learning and ensures that there's a high level of retention in industries and generating a high quality and capable workforce. So with all that in mind, what we've developed at Venture for Canada, our next offering is our externship program. This is a new pilot program for post-secondary students and small to mid-sized enterprises and startups right here in Alberta. Externship is testing out a new model of work-integrated learning by providing post-secondary students the opportunity to participate in light touch, short-term business challenges for 40 hours or less with innovative employers here in Alberta. Teams of 2 to 7 post-secondary student volunteers from varying disciplines would be matched with employers on these projects that are then delivered over the course of 4 weeks. So through this, students gain exposure to career coaching while at the same time tackling light touch business challenges. This program has been developed in partnership with the Business and Higher Education Roundtable. And this is a little quote from Val Walker, the CEO of BHER. SMEs have been impacted the most by the pandemic. This has also meant more barriers and fewer IWIL opportunities for students. The innovative program that we've created will connect soon-to-be graduates with Alberta entrepreneurs and small to mid-sized businesses to help them respond, recover, and grow. So for students, we believe that students will benefit from this program by gaining exposure to new industries. This exposure has the impact of providing career clarity. Increasingly, we're seeing recent grads working in fields that are unrelated to their field of study. We believe in embracing this trend by providing students with the training and opportunity to apply their transferable skills. The externship program provides students with the opportunity to kind of dip their toes, if you were, into new fields, sectors, and networks and learn about in-demand careers. Additionally, this program fosters peer connections, providing network opportunities and a chance for students collectively to test their skills in real-world scenarios and also to gain professional experience. By participating in this program, participants get to meet like-minded group of peers and connect with future employers. And as employers, this program gives employers the power to propel the local innovation ecosystem here in Alberta, playing a role in strengthening career prospects of Alberta youth through mentorship, industry exposure, and the opportunity to solve real-world problems. The externship program is designed to provide students with exposure to new industries and potential career paths. And our VOC candidates come into our program, we vet them, train them, and make sure that they're committed. So we're confident that employers that are participating in this 4-week externship is a really light touch, low commitment, inexpensive way to connect with students, maybe meet the next brightest star or find the next great idea. So this program was designed with an outlook on innovative flexibility. So unlike traditional work integrated learning programs, this program gives the opportunity for work integrated learning to those who don't fit into traditional work integrated learning models. It provides access to students who don't have work integrated learning built into their academic training and our rolling project submissions. So we're taking project submissions, employer submissions on an ongoing basis. And that short-term time commitment allows students as well as employers to access all the benefits of work integrated learning on their own timelines. So that's what we have to offer. That's the externship program. There's more detailed information on our website. So should you be interested in finding out more, there's the link to our website, as well as the application if you're keen about this kind of opportunity and are ready to participate. I've also linked the application, and I'll put these 2 links in the chat so you can click on them a little bit more easily. But thanks for listening, and thanks for hearing a little bit about this new opportunity for Alberta. And I'm really excited to have the chance to have a discussion with you all and receive some of your thoughts and feedback.
Thanks so much, Taylor. Anybody have questions about this new program? Sorry if I missed it, Taylor, and I might have because I was doing a few things in the background, but other programs that you guys offer, are you able to touch on those?
Yeah, sure, I can, for sure. So the externship program is what we're highlighting today with a short amount of time that we have together. But Venture for Canada does offer a suite of programs depending on like the level of commitment and what the employer is looking for. So all of our programs, as I said, focus on developing entrepreneurial mindsets and work with innovative employers. So externship is kind of the lightest touch program that we offer. The next level up would be our internship program. So we are a funder for the SWIP funding federally. So for each semester, we offer internship funding to innovative employers who are interested in providing an entrepreneurial experience to a student. These are like 4-month-long internships, paid internships. So they would kind of be integrated, onboarded as a member of your organization in a traditional internship model. And then the third program that we offer is our fellowship program. And this is a pipeline development program for highly ambitious, highly vetted recent grads. So if you're looking for that really unique, highly qualified candidate, our VFC fellowship program is the way to find that. And the fellows, they participate in this program for 18 months with us, throughout which time they've received training from us in developing their entrepreneurial mindset at the same time as working with your organization. So those are kind of the three kind of key pillar programs of Venture for Canada. And we're developing kind of a narrative at VFC of how our programs sort of speak to each other. So the first touch in connecting with the students at VFC is externship, testing out a student to see what their capabilities are and what their interest is. And should they be the right fit, it's a great opportunity then to bring them into an internship and then to a fellowship. So there's lots of opportunity to like grow with a student through all three of our programs.
Awesome. And you work across Canada?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
The externship program, however, is exclusive to Alberta. So this is a Alberta only program. So we should feel very privileged here in Alberta for this.
Very cool. Okay, we do have some questions. How recent is recent grads? Within a year or another timeline?
Yeah, our fellow, that's actually a good question. I don't know the exact, but I know it's within less than 2 years.
Okay, and then Peter's asking, where does the funding come from for your nonprofit? And is it the students or the entrepreneurs apply for the programs, or both?
Yeah, so for all of our programs, it's both. For the externship, students apply individually and employers apply individually, and we do the matching. So in externship, you actually don't have to do any hiring, which is really nice. The students kind of get to see what opportunities are interesting to them, and they self-select those opportunities. For internship, it could go either way. Employers are welcome to recruit themselves and bring their intern to us to get funding. But we also have a pool of interns that you can hire from. So for internship, it could go either way. And fellowship, as a fellowship partner, you're committed to hiring from our pool of fellowship candidates.
Okay, great. Lisa, would you mind just unmuting and asking your question?
Sure. The long one?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, I've had a couple of employers seem to think that the age 18 to 30 ones are the only ones that are available. So I don't know if the VFC funding for those of us who are not under 30 is different, or if the 18 to 30 ones are more funding somehow.
I'm
a software developer looking for work, and I'm new grad, and I'm not under 30.
I see. Yeah, we don't have requirements as far as ages go for except for the internship program. Does have, I think it's a youth focused program. The funding is youth focused, so that funding comes from the government, and they have really strict restrictions on where the funding can go. But fellowship does not have an age restriction, and neither does externship.
Okay, I was just wondering if it's better for the employer somehow, one program or the other, because some seem to think the 18 to 30 is the only option.
If it's, I think it just depends on the needs of the employer. So like there's a different commitment for externship versus our internship program versus our fellowship program. So yeah, so I think that would depend on like what the employer is looking for, what need they're looking to fill. Externship is really small, really light touch opportunities, whereas internship is a longer period, 4 months, you know, like a minimum of 4 months could be longer. Employment opportunity for a student, and those are current students. So if you're a recent grad, the fellowship program would be something that's more appealing.
Okay, thank you.
That's great. There's a few other questions, Taylor, in the chat, but you could probably just head in there and answer them quickly in the chat if you don't mind, and then we'll head over to Sarah to hear what's happening at Mitacs and Innovate Calgary.
Thanks, Bridget. I'm just going to share my screen here. I probably won't have time in 4 to 6 minutes to talk about both Innovate Calgary and Mitacs, but I'll touch on Mitacs. And if you have Innovate Calgary questions, I am also happy to answer those. So first up, I'm going to start with a question because I love hearing from audience members. So what is it that keeps you from innovating as a company? And I know there's always multiple answers here. I actually can't see the chat right now. Chat. Time. Yep. Fear of
Day-to-day
change.
stress of running a business.
Day-to-day stress of running a business. Yep. Money. Lack of psychological safety. Yep. Awesome. So those are all things we get all the time. Money usually is one of the big ones that comes up, but it is also these other things of not having the time, not having the expertise, maybe not having quite the right plan in place or framework. And so what Mitacs does, I know there's a ton of text on this slide, so I apologize. So we're a national not-for-profit organization that's funded entirely by the federal and provincial governments. And we support innovation in the Canadian economy by connecting academic researchers with industry partners. And we do that through student internships, research internships, which I'll explain a little more detail. I just wanted to highlight how nicely the Mitacs model fits with the rainforest model, because I was looking at the values and I'm like, oh, they all fit. This is amazing. So we like to start with working with companies, starting with them, talking about what are they trying to solve? What's your challenge? What are you trying to figure out? Determine sort of what's your research question, because often companies can't quite frame like what is the question you're trying to answer. Then we figure out, okay, what's the size of the project? How many people would you need? Would you need just one person for 4 months? Or is it going to be like a multi-year, multi-person, big thing that you have to tackle? Then once we've got that figured out, we've got a plan, we then help you to recruit talent. And so this is in the form of graduate students and postdoctoral fellows who are all very highly trained individuals. And then we help you pay for it, which is always the very appreciated part. So it really helps to scale businesses, particularly startups, even faster because we enable you to sort of increase your growth. So how it works, the easiest way to think of Mitacs is for any of our projects, you need an industry partner. And an industry partner includes both for-profit and not-for-profits, from one person, like tiny, just incorporated startup, all the way up to Fortune 500 companies and major international charities. So we do the whole lot. We might be getting some other partner organization things this summer, but basically, if you have a startup or you have a company or you have a not-for-profit, you're an eligible partner. And then we also have an intern who's a student researcher and a faculty member at the university. And so once we've got all these three partners, we bring them together, we talk about what's the project going to look like. As soon as it's something that's 16 weeks or longer, we have a project and we can basically get going. So we have, just like Venture for Canada, we have a number of different programs. I'm going to just highlight this one today because it's our most popular program and it's the most flexible. So the way that it works is, if you think of that triangle with the intern, the prof, and the company or the not-for-profit, and you have your 16-week project, that's one unit. It's like the little cubes. Think of it like a Lego block. You can start from 4 months, but you can also build it out to be bigger than that. And I'll explain that in a second. For now, one unit. It's a 4 to 6 month block of time. Usually it's 4 months. It's the same amount of money, whether it's 4 or 6 months. So sometimes just to make your funding stretch a little further, we can go to 6 months. The intern usually spends their time 50-50 with the organization, like the company, and the university. They're always 100% of the time working to solve your problem. They just might be using university resources sometimes or using your resources sometimes. So they're going back and forth to create that collaboration. Out of that 4 months or 6 months, it's $15,000. So half of it comes from the partner organization. So half comes from your company, half comes from Mitacs. So we basically match it 50-50. And that goes for every 4-month period. Now, if you want to do a bigger project or a longer project, then we get into this sort of stacking process. So it's 4 to 6 months. So if you wanted to do a project that was a year, you could do 2 stretched out units, or you could do 3 4-month units. Any master's student can do up to 4, a PhD can do up to 8, postdoc can do up to 9. Basically what this means is that you are able to build out the project in any way you want. So say you have a master's student, say you want to bring on somebody with a data science background, somebody with a health background, and I don't know, maybe just those two. You could bring on, one master's student in data science, and you could bring in somebody with a PhD in medicine, and they can help you with your biotech startup, for example, to research something specifically and solve a specific problem. So I've got a couple of example projects there. I'm not going to get into this too much detail, but just so you can see the kinds of scale. So again, we can start with that 4-month project, which is similar to what Venture for Canada does. And I'll explain that also in a second. But you can start from that 4-month project that's the smallest, but then it goes up from there. So if you're thinking of something where you might want to start with 4 months, but you might want to make it longer, you might want to bring on multiple people, you might want to do something bigger and get more funding for it, then this is a really good option. It's also a really good option if you're trying to research something that's at a higher level, because we use graduate students and postdocs. A postdoc, for those of you that aren't familiar, is basically someone with a PhD who could be a university faculty member, but they haven't yet found a job as a faculty member, or they don't want to be a faculty member. So that kind of transition phase. So I do want to hear from you where you want to go with this. I am going to touch on it briefly because I'm sure we're going to get questions about what the difference is between what Venture for Canada does and what Mitacs does. And there's a pretty easy distinction. So Venture for Canada is part of the, as Taylor mentioned, the SWIP program, so Student Work Placement Program, which is a government funding initiative where it's a wage subsidy program. So you hire somebody, a student between 18 to 30, as your employee for that 4-month period or longer. But say for a 4-month period, you pay their salary and then you get paid back for their salary. Mitacs, you don't hire them. They're not an employee. They are an intern. So they remain independent from your organization, but it means that you don't have to do payroll. You don't have to set up benefits. You don't need to set up their taxes or deduct their income, anything like that. You just write a check and you get an intern. The other big difference is that it's not a subsidy. So you can't stack them together. You can't do Mitacs and one of these sort of wage subsidies. The wage subsidies, they do work really well. We refer people to that program all the time with Venture for Canada and with some other organizations. They work really well if you want an undergraduate student as well, because we don't currently work with them. But if you're wanting to do something bigger, if you're wanting to fund bigger research projects, then Mitacs is generally the better option. So there's some play. I think it's one of those things where you have to look at what's best for your situation. And the easiest way to do that is to chat with someone like myself or Taylor and just say, this is what I want to do. Is it a good fit for your program, or is it a better fit for the other program? I'm going to stop because I think that there's probably some questions. Mm-mm.
Sorry, I'm sleeping, Sarah. There's one around, someone has a master's data science student working for them right now. Could they access the funded program?
Maybe. It depends. So Mitacs, so one of the things that Mitacs and Venture for Canada have in common is that we don't like it if a student is already working for a company. It has to be like a new placement. So in Mitacs case, it's something where if they've been like an employee with your company for like a year, it's very hard for us to justify because it's meant to be showing sort of new industry collaborations. If they've been doing like some volunteer work for you, or they just started, sometimes we can do it. It's better to talk about it on a case-by-case basis and those things. I see. Oh, just a compliment. Thanks, Donna.
Donna's a happy client.
The 50% from the company is shred eligible if the work is, as you said, if the work conducted is eligible. But we do have companies that will apply for shred credits after. Pre-launch, pre-revenue. If you can pay the half. So yeah, if you can pay for it and if you are incorporated. So much like a lot of these programs, you have to be incorporated to be considered a company under sort of Canadian funding programs. But you could incorporate that day and submit an application the next day. So it's not a huge barrier for participation. The other thing I wanted to mention is about recent grads. So currently Mitacs doesn't have any programs for recent grads. And I'm mentioning this also for you, Lisa, but we did ask in our most recent federal funding round, we did ask the federal government if we could add recent grads to our programming. And so it's currently being considered. We should have their response by the end of June. I don't know what kinds of restrictions that they would put on that program if they did approve it. However, currently, none of the Mitacs programs have age restrictions. We're open to all ages, all disciplines, all sectors. What's the reason for requiring you to be physically at the partner organization site instead of, say, working remotely? We've used some flexibility over COVID because obviously everyone is working remotely. And so what we've been doing is applying for basically everyone to have an exception because of COVID this year. The reason I'm sort of saying physical now is that it takes 8 weeks to put in an application. So if you started with a project now, you were going to hire somebody, you're going to start them sort of late summer. If you're hiring them if they're bringing them on for a research project for a year, at some point in that year, we probably would stop distancing. And we want students to be able to have an experience that would be realistic for them actually going into industry. So we want them to actually go and experience what it's like to work in an industry workplace, a company or a not-for-profit, because it is just so different from an academic environment. I'm just trying to read the chat to see if there's any other questions.
Is it expensible? How does IP rights work? And does it include colleges or just universities? Did you catch that one? Sorry, Sarah.
Yep. I just saw it.
Like I said, I'm sleeping. I'm trying to do a few things in the background.
Peter, can you just type in the chat what you mean by expansible? Well, I touch on the other two. So does it include colleges? Yes, a number of our programs are open for colleges, including the Accelerate program that I mentioned, which is odd to me because we include colleges, but not undergrads, and then we go straight to grad students. Undergrads are another one that we might be getting funding approval for this summer. I'm crossing my fingers because it'll make my job easier. IP rights work, it depends on the university that you work with. Mitacs works with all universities and a lot of the colleges across Canada. It's defined by the university's IP policy. The University of Calgary's IP policy is that the company by default gets 100% of the IP rights. If the prof or the student wants to sort of negotiate on that, sometimes they'll set up another contract, but most of the time it just goes straight to the company. Expansible. I can write employees off as an expense. So it depends on where. So for something like Shred, you could, if you're eligible, but for something like a wage subsidy or any kind of, if it says employee, then you generally can't do it. So if it's like requires them to be a full-time employee, because they're not an employee, it wouldn't count for those kinds of programs. How can we reach you? I'll put my email in the chat.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. And there's a few other questions there. I'm sure you guys can answer them in the chat. Thanks for sharing all those resources. Great for students and great for the startups. As per usual, we're going to head into some breakout rooms and have some more collisions and connections. Before you head in there, I'm just throwing in the chat a survey. If you filled out, if you were at the summit 2 weeks ago in Calgary, virtually, there's just a 1-minute survey we would like you to fill out, literally a minute, very, very quick. If you wouldn't mind, it would help us with some numbers we're trying to pull together for our post-summit report. And I'm gonna open up some breakout rooms now and we'll come back. We'll probably have time to do 2 or 3 and then be back at 12:55 for announcements. So please be ready to share whatever you have going on in the community. So I'll create those rooms now. Welcome back. Nobody wanted to come back that time. You all had to get kicked out. Okay, well, we'll open the floor up for some announcements. I'm going to throw that link in there one more time because I know that some of you are at Summit and haven't filled this out, and we would really like a little bit more data on this. So if you were at Summit, please fill out that quick survey, and I will open the floor to any other announcements.
I went to that fill in that form, and all it says is that it sent a request, and it doesn't let me into the form.
Did anyone else get that?
I got the same thing.
You did? What is up with that? It worked for Sarah.
Yeah, it worked for me.
I just clicked on it and it worked for me. I wasn't there, so I can't fill it out.
Oh, that last, don't use the one I sent last. Sorry, it's if you use this one here, I'll throw it back in. Sorry, my bad. The first one I put in works.
That's the one I used the last link and it worked fine too.
Yeah,
So
me too.
it's
The last
computer.
one worked for me.
Yeah.
I used the first one and it didn't work, so I'll try the last one.
Don't try that one, it won't work. This one will work.